Uh, and I want to thank staff and everyone that put this together this morning. It's outstanding and nice for the holiday season. Sam, will you start with the roll call, please?
Yes.
In between bites.
Yes, Chester, Cindy Lignon.
Morning.
Morning, Cindy. All right, Clinton, Michelle is not expected. Cromwell, Anthony Salvatore.
Here.
Deep River, Earl Dog Jones.
Here.
Oh, welcome. Durham, Brendan Ray. Here. East Haddam, Todd Gelston. He is expected, but not here yet. East Hampton, David Cox. I'm here. Essex, Norm Needleman or Crazy Pez, I don't think you're expected. Haddam, Sean Donlin. I'm here. Welcome. Thank you. Killingworth, Eric Couture. Here. From Lyme, Christine, Erica, Zelik. I don't see her, but she's the new first selectwoman. Middlefield, Fabio Martino, unfortunately was not able to make it. Middletown, Gino Sarah, not expected. Old Line, Martha Shoemaker.
Here.
Well, good morning. Old Sabre, you're not here.
He's in the line.
Oh, there's Carl. Welcome, Carl. And then Portland, Michael Pelton here. And Westbrook, John Hall. And I don't see John, but we do have a quorum. For the MPO, we have Joe Comerford from the Estuary Transit District here. We also have Darlene Briggs from Middlesex Chamber.
Morning.
Do we have Grayson Wright from Connecticut DOT? I don't see him. I do see Lori McElwee.
Hi.
Our regional mobility manager. Welcome. We also have a few other state guests. We have Nicole Velarde from Demis on the Zoom. And Craig Conklin was not able to make today. We also have from Deep. Go ahead. Why don't you introduce yourself?
Oh, wait, OBM.
OPM, yeah, OPM. Why does OPM go ahead?
Yes, hi, I'm Alfredo Herrera. I'm the Geographic Information Officer for the state of Connecticut at OPM.
And I'm Ashley Benitez, and I'm the coordinator for the DF office.
All right, welcome. Looking at, we also have some representatives here. Representative of Lemire.
Morning, Renee Lamarck here,
Yep.
36th district.
Welcome. And do we have any other senators or? Now, where's Irene? Yeah, where's Irene? Free breakfast. We also have a representation from our congressional office. We have Julia McGrath and Ellen Grant. Yeah, sorry, I'm just spacing for a second. And I don't see anyone from from Murphy's office. Oh, hey. Yeah, so we have Aaron McBride from Murphy's office. Let's see, I'm going to introduce staff. Sam Gold, we have Megan Juflis, Brendan Garrity, let's see, Margot Burns, Susie Beckman, Eliza Lopresti, Janice Rollmeyer, Marcos Gonzalez, Rob Harrimet, Sally Rothenhouse, and Vicki Harris. And I think that is everyone. If anyone has not been introduced, please feel free to introduce themselves. And with that, yeah, I'll turn it back to you.
We have a presentation, right?
We're going to start off with the legislative agenda. And since we have a representative with us, we can, if she would like to say anything to the COG, we can welcome her to say something. Renee, if you'd like to about that.
Okay, thank you very much. So Sam, we'll start out with legislative agenda.
Yeah, so before you is actually an updated legislative agenda from that I got updated last minute for this morning. I think a big thing that everyone knows about is the housing bill that passed in special session a couple of weeks ago. The staff of the COGs are diligently going through the law, coming up with an understanding of how it would work. And if there are any issues or fixes that might be needed in a technical correction bill. I did talk to Norm Needleman about this. He said that he'd be willing to put something forward. Of course, I don't think leadership is gonna want to change the bill in any substantial way, but if there are fixes that are needed, which I think they may be open to that. Some of the things I think that need to be addressed are some of the deadlines might need to be fixed. There's language that's not clear or needs to be defined or clarified. Particularly how summary review works, which is a new process that's introduced in this bill. There's also, I think on behalf of the COGs are receiving funding from this new law, $400,000 in total, $200,000 for housing planning and $200,000 for solid waste or stormwater. I'm going to advocate for there to be a little bit more flexibility there in the funding to allow the money to be flexed between housing, stormwater, and or solid waste. Requiring us to choose between focusing on solid waste or stormwater, I think might be problematic or might require a change every year in our work program. And I think the money should be more fluid and be able to conform to the needs of the region. Other items under housing planning and zoning. One thing that that comes up a lot, and I think very important in our region, is we have a lack of sewers, and there needs to be some sort of study and guidance from state departments and municipalities to review requirements to streamline permitting for larger community septic options in those projects where sewers do not exist. Conflicting goals between DEEP and Department of Health and Department of Economic Community Development. Stall development projects, especially those that will bring housing and business to towns without sewers, which is a lot of our region. These opposing priorities need to be reconciled. And then a final bullet, which I will give credit to the housing law that was just passed, is that really in the first the regional housing growth plans that are required are really the first plans that Connecticut is requiring implementation of. So right now we do, every town does a plan of conservation development and then doesn't have to follow it or implement it in their zoning. So I think this housing plan is a good model for future, is that if we do plans, they shouldn't just sit on shelves, they should be implemented. So other areas under education, funding for ECS and particularly funding for special education requirements. The cost of education has become prohibitively expensive for many small towns and smaller regional school districts. State Department of Education should be directed to smooth year-to-year changes to ADM, allowing for better planning and eliminating spikes in costs of student population changes. Under unfunded mandates, municipal funding, the state needs to increase funding for education, early voting, and infrastructure development and maintenance. Under transportation, infrastructure, and waste management, the state really lacks leadership in the area of waste management. This has been clear for a number of years to most of our towns. State leadership is needed to find the most effective and efficient solutions for our waste problems. As many of you know, RiverCOG is working on a regional waste authority study, but at the end of the day, our region does not have that large of a volume of garbage. And to really find those economies of scale, you need some larger entity with a larger volume of garbage to be able to negotiate the best rates. And without some leadership on the state level to really facilitate this, it's I don't know how we move forward back to something which people could realize certainty of having places to dispose of our garbage, but also having good prices. Another item that made on our agenda is the Connecticut DOT should be directed to allow greater municipal input in DOT planning. Increased cooperation is needed to coordinate DOT projects on state roads, particularly state roads that go through town centers and development areas where towns are planning to build housing and economic development projects. The state must ensure mass transit policy is consistent with the state's goal of transit-oriented development projects in all regions. Successful TOT requires a sustained commitment to reliable rail and bus service to To ensure consistency, more funding is needed for shoreline needs from the rail and River Valley Transit bus service, and continued funding for the successful microtransit grant services such as Extra Mile. Transit districts need to be given the status of essential services, same as municipalities, so they're excluded from state mandates such as sick and paid family medical leave. River Valley Transit has been struggling to provide consistent service due to staff taking advantage of sick and paid leave programs. This was a change that happened a couple of years ago, and River Valley Transit is struggling under this new mandate. Under elections, voting, government administration, state needs to increase funding for early voting and adjust the length of time early voting is required, justified by data if it is to be sustainable. Alternatively, the state could take advantage of the change in the state constitution, allow for no excuse absentee ballots in lieu of early voting to eliminate the need for additional funding and staffing to support early voting in municipalities. The state needs to create a centralized grant hub and application portal that consolidates key grant initiatives, streamlines the experience for applicants, and better coordinates grant programs. Such a portal could help the state coordinate and execute its policy and legislative priorities, promote competent governance, and affect greater efficiency. An example could be Massachusetts Community One Stop for Growth, and that website is a good example of what Connecticut could follow. Also, I'm glad that our GIO is here. The state needs to create a centralized GIS, a stronger centralized GIS program, particularly with a statewide parcel. My pet project that I'd like to get done. Public safety, convene a task force to study regionalization of fire, police, ambulance service. Study consulting smaller and often understaffed departments into a unified regional system. Communities can share resources, leading to better coverage and quicker response times. And study OEMF licensing of public safety units and municipal opportunities, take over management of municipal regional service districts licensed by OEMS. Under economic development, and this is coming from the Tourism Coalition, an increase in the meals tax by 1% to dedicate funds for tourism, which is an important economic activity in our region. And that money could be split up between addressing food security, giving money to the municipalities where the meals were purchased, and also funding our tourism fund. And then under conservation and environmental issues, expedited permitting should be allowed for action to be taken quickly to combat invasive species. Waiting for permitting can worsen the environmental impact of both invasive species and the intervention that's needed. If we wait longer, we have to use more chemicals. So expediting that is important. And then secondarily, encourage 100-foot riparian inland and coastal wetland buffer regulation to protect the public health, ecosystems, and water quality and quantity. Such a setback exists in the Connecticut River Gateway Zone. Variances are regularly granted to balance the needs of conservation and development. Under labor and public employees, firefighter cancer funding, the legislation creating a funding source by the addition of a 5-cent charge on cell phone bills should not be delayed beyond fall of 2026. And then finally, state funding. Oppose any taxing policies or proposals that further limit a municipality's ability to generate revenue, including but not limited to caps on automobile and real estate tax collections. Modify the statutes to guarantee that anticipated reimbursements from the automobile mill rate cap do not sunset. And the second, support initiatives that ensure that our region's municipalities receive all their state funded allocations, including pilot payments and MRSA, in a timely fashion, and at their fully established statutorily dictated levels. So that's the draft legislative agenda at the moment. I did receive a suggestion from Cindy in Chester. I don't know if you wanted to go ahead and add that or suggest it.
Sure. I received these from some of my department heads. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can.
Okay. So regarding, I don't know what section this would fall under, but from our Tri-Town Youth Services Bureau Executive Director and his 2 years experience and reports from directors in other towns, the annual state funding of youth service bureaus has been stagnant or with no increase in years. This includes both from the DCF and also DMIS funding streams. So that was his want and communication. And then regarding planning and zoning, from the planning and zoning chair, prioritize quicker appeals for housing decisions by the P and Z. You know, we certainly see it does get very delayed. I don't know if that's even an option, but that is a request. And then from the Conservation Commission Chair, who also is involved with a group called Connecticut Pesticide Reform Group, who advocates for common sense use of pesticides and for restricting the use of known harmful chemicals such as second generation anticoagulant rodenticides, that's a mouthful, that are known to kill birds of prey and scavengers, and systemic neonicotinoids that kill all insects, including pollinators, as well as the birds that feed on them. So what her ask is currently pesticide data submitted to DEEP by applicators is not stored in a searchable database, making it nearly impossible to understand where, when, and how much pesticide is being applied. The DEEP should establish an online searchable database for pesticide applications conducted throughout the state that allows for public access to summary level data, including the chemical name, date of application, and geographic area. So I forwarded these to Vicki and Sam if anybody wants more information. So thank you. And that's for Renee too. Thanks, Renee. We can talk more offline.
So with regard to it's neonicotinoid request, I think we should probably have a conversation with Deep on that. I don't know that that's could be a legislative priority necessarily, but I keep hearing about this when we're trying to buy trees that don't have that, and it's actually not easy to find. Trees that haven't been treated with neonicotinoids or something, beyond my pay grade, but that might be a conversation we have with a DEEP representative. Part of YFS funding, I totally agree with that. Those grants have been stagnant for a long time, and they should be reconsidered.
Carl.
We passed two bills in the regular session that ban the use of neonicotinoids and the rodenticides at certain properties like golf courses, turf grass, lawns, golf courses, ornamental plants. That starts in 2028. So like anything, it's in there. Now that it's in there, it can be expandable. You know, so it's easier to get something in there, and I know this doesn't cover every area. It's very specified on where these chemicals will not be able to be used, and 2028 is still 2 years away, but we started, right? So we're working.
So in other words, that is addressed already, but it's not until 2028.
It doesn't take effect until 2028, and the things where these chemicals can be used is limited. Is where they're prohibited is limited. So the issue was large commercial buildings that have loaded products. It's very difficult for them not to. Their argument was it's very difficult and costly for them not to use these chemicals to control rodent infestation and other sort of insect infestations. So that's why the law was written to say you can't use them here, and it was quiet about over here. So, but no, that's always it's in the books now, so it can always be amended.
Okay, so how would you want to address that?
So, so first of all, let's see if there's support to adding the youth services funding from the state.
Do we have support?
To add youth service.
Yes.
Yeah.
All those in favor of adding youth service support, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, that carries.
Yeah, so on that, and I think when it comes to I think having a meeting with Deep to understand what can and can't be done, I think might be a good next step, because I know I'm not educated enough to know, although I think what, Cindy's, staff member was asking for was a proposal to create a searchable public database, which I think, which is not, is not regulatory, it's just information. So I don't think it's a necessarily a harmful idea, except, but
Do you want legislation for that, or would you just talk to Deep and see if the,
but I think we should have a talk with Deep about that, yeah. And what was the,
Administrative appeals.
the administrative,
oh, planning and zoning?
yeah,
It's just the court system.
That's Superior Court.
yeah,
I don't know how you're gonna get Superior Court to act any faster.
yeah,
judges.
yeah, so,
Do you have a suggestion on, how you would expedite the
Cindy,
appeals?
You asking me?
yeah,
Yeah, do you have a
Say that again, I'm
suggestion
sorry.
on how? Yeah, how you would expedite getting a quicker response out of Superior
That's a
Court?
good question. I really don't know. That is perhaps a legislative matter, Renee? Maybe you could respond to that?
yeah, so Renee has.
I have some thoughts, because this is a problem for lots of areas, not just these
Mhm.
cases. But, I'm looking at trying to expedite, court decisions in other areas. So there's two kind of ways you can do it. You can put deadlines for the court in statute, like these cases must be by, 180 days or 90 days or whatever. You do have to give the court a little bit of an out there in case there's some tricky legal issue that a smart lawyer brings up. You can do that, or you can make the bar to appeal higher, right? So you could set some kind of burden of proof on the plaintiff, because these are civil cases, right? So the plaintiff would have to set a higher burden of proof. And we're looking at this in the area particularly of housing, when residents will sue to try to prevent the town from citing housing or building housing. So try and find a way to make those plaintiffs establish or meet a higher bar to file their case, but that's also tricky. But those are two areas that we're looking at, but if anybody has any other great ideas.
Third option is hire more judges.
Yeah, that's always,
That doesn't necessarily mean you're still gonna get
True.
a decision that's expedited.
Sure.
Um,
I mean, the decisions have to be rendered, I think, within 120 days of the argument.
Yeah.
Already, I think that is the current law.
so it's 120 days, Cindy, what are you looking for?
Well,
I guess, well, there's also briefs, they file a brief after brief and whatever delays can be had. Because we're experiencing that in our town, I'm sure other towns are as well, delay after delay after delay, then 1 year goes by, 2 years goes by. And now we're going into over 2 years with a case here. So, I don't know if it's even possible to change that, but we wanted to put that out there. Renee, I hear what you're saying too, and it sounds like there is some discussion about it because I know it impacts every municipality.
well, yeah, we're
These
sort of looking at
cases.
the criminal side, because it take 2 years to dispose of a misdemeanor case, in some instances, that puts the city in a very costly jail cell. So we're looking at it and expediting the court process, it could be applied to just about any court. But. Yeah,
Wanna
I
wait?
hear
I
you.
don't think there's anything.
I don't think so either.
I think, like, the legislature, there sounds like they have some ideas or trying to get stuff through. And if you pass a law raising the bar, you probably get some sort of constitutional challenge on that, I know.
And taking the appeals away,
But I will point out that that the housing law that just passed raised the petition, a neighboring petition threshold from 20% of neighbors to 50%. So now there's now a higher threshold for petitions against a project. So that was part of the law, so that might.
That may be helpful.
You're looking at it for this session, possible?
No, I mean, I don't know if it'll be this session, but it's just something in general, expediting a severely backlog court system in general, all of the courts. Housing court has a problem, family court has a problem, criminal court,
They all have-
so.
I would say, be careful what you wish for, because then you're gonna be building new buildings and you're gonna be hiring new judges, because that's the only way they're gonna get it done. They're just gonna hire more staff, hire more judges, open up more courthouses, because otherwise they're gonna say they don't have enough people to get the cases through.
Right, but it's not always just the judge's problem. The judge has to follow, the judge has to follow the Constitution and, you know, all of the actors play a role in it, so does that case, so.
They do, but you know, even if you're on a lot of motions, I don't wanna waste anyone's time.
Yeah,
Most of the time, the case is set for a trial and all the motions happen in between.
Yeah.
Usually the problem is that you can't get a trial. And the court's always claimed it back. That's the problem with criminals too. Try to get a criminal jury trial these days, and you're talking.
Cindy, you have any objection going back to your person and seeing if you can come back with, what they're exactly looking for?
Sure. I can have further discussion,
Yeah.
come back.
If there's a way to address it specifically, that would be better than just trying to support something that we really don't have or, some type of response to.
So it's a complicated
What's the next
proposal
one?
So,
in
are there
discussion,
any
so
other,
it's not an easy one.
thank you, Cindy. Are there any other additions or edits or modifications to the draft legislative agenda before it's adopted?
Any other proposals?
Okay, then you can ask for a
All
motion.
right, seeing none and adding, what was approved. Can I get a motion on our legislative agenda for 2026?
I'll move to approve the legislative agenda as amended.
Okay, we have a motion over here and Eric seconding. Any further discussion? Okay, seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. All right, you want a brief,
Yeah, so,
on the audit?
yeah, so, as all of you know, Paul Fenald left RiverCOG back in the summer, and Sally Rothenhouse has taken over financial administrator position and has actually been doing an excellent job taking over and learning her job very quickly. Unfortunately, we ran into a little bit of a hiccup with our audit this year. It turns out that our auditors were expecting reports from that Paula previously created, but they didn't ask. And so, and we have been asking them, we've been asking them for months, if there's additional information they needed. Then they come to us this week and say, oh, you don't have these tables. Well, so we are working with the auditors to get this done quickly. And hopefully we'll have a final audit to you before the end of the month, and maybe we can schedule a special meeting to approve it. The alternative will be to file for an extension with OPM. But with the changeover in staff, unfortunately, this was one of the hiccups here. Our auditors should have known that Paula would not be grading tables because she's not here anymore, but they didn't bother to think about that until just this week.
Okay, due to the changeover in our staff, I'm asking, for a motion to ask OPM for a waiver,
An extension,
Extension.
I mean.
I'll move that we ask OPM for that extension.
Second?
I'll second it.
Second. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay, seeing,
The public speaking, we do have our congressional representatives, offices represented here.
so Senator Blumenthal's office,
Not too much to report, probably written, I think right now. We are looking at some of the budgets being crafted for, the areas that were not passed last month. It's, earmarks, regular garden spending are in there. We're hoping everything stays in there. We will keep updated. I think that's really it from our office.
Thank you. Senator Murphy?
Hi, I'm Erin. I'm from Senator Murphy's office. I think the only thing I'll flag, I know Julie probably has a great report, so I won't add too much, but I sent around an EPA brownfields grant. It's due in January. I'm happy to resend it out to anyone that didn't get it, but I've already had some calls from members of this COG with questions. There was webinars earlier this week as well, so definitely consider looking at those. They can be really helpful. And right now, federal funding kind of being up and down, this is a great opportunity for a lot of towns that have brownfields need remediation. So, but other than that, kind of just echoing, Ellen, we are operating off the CR that was passed. So we have to kind of see what happens in January again, if you have any questions. And if you have any CDS projects that were passed, and those, I think 2 or 3 that made it, they were in CR, let us know. But otherwise, we're still tracking to see if the other projects will get passed in the next development.
If you could send the brownfield information to Sam, so he can send it out to everyone, please. Thank you. Representative Courtney?
Good morning, Julie McGrath from Mr. Shorten's office. Just to add to what Erin said about the brownfields grants, UConn has a technical assistance program that is excellent. I highly recommend at least meeting with them initially if you are going to go out. They have completely turned around our rate of return on this program, so highly recommend. Very smart people. Congress is in session this week from the 9th to the 12th, so yesterday to Friday. The big focus, at least from our office's perspective, is the National Defense Authorization Act. The text was released Monday, I think, and so our ledge staff is working through that this week. I have included a full week schedule in my report. The majority of things are not really things that would be of interest to the COG, but there are a couple of things having to do with either electricity transmission and planning that might be interesting. Like Erin said, 3 out of 12 of the annual appropriations bills have been signed into law. That leaves 9. I'm not sure what's gonna happen. Probably nothing before Christmas, I would say. But then just a couple agency updates. The build NOFO, which I know is also on the agenda, is out. It appears to be incomplete at the moment. But maybe it will not always be that way. I don't know. That used to be the Tiger program, then was the build program, then was the raise program, and now we've gone back to the build program. But it's all the same thing. That is quite a competitive program, but it does meet a lot of regional needs, so it's definitely worth taking a look. Last month, I mentioned the continuum care notice of funding that has been revised, which is kind of a tangential impact to this group. It has now been revoked, and it is not clear yet whether we're going to go back to the previous notice of funding or they're going to release a new one. So we will keep you guys updated on that as well. And then just 2 Federal Register postings that are up for comment that I thought might be interesting and are linked in the report. One on barriers to broadband deployment, and then the other on an updated definition of water to the United States by the EPA. And that is it.
Thank you. Any questions for our federal partners?
Not a question, but a comment on the brownfields. I met with Susie and UConn tab.
Yeah.
One of the qualifications is that the municipality can't have been the creator of the brownfields. For example, most Killingworth's brownfields are either our town campus or a former dump, so those would not qualify. So
yes, we have encountered in my 6 years of doing this an outside number of technical complications of this program. I will say it is worth it to try it. The EPA staff that works on the brownfield program is excellent. And UConn is also great. It is worth it to try to strategize ways to meet the standards of the program while also meeting their community needs, and there's a lot of people who are willing to help, kind of, including our office, I'm sure the senator's offices are willing to kind of think through how to potentially like with different partnerships to make it work. There's also a brownfield land bank that is run out of, I believe it's not Naugatuck. Yeah, RiverCOG, and they are really great. They're definitely worth just discussing their experience as well. But I think it's probably true that most potential applicants have some complications in terms of ownership or other conflicting things. And in some cases, it is just a barrier, but then in some cases, it can be strategically moved around. So it just depends.
I'll just add, if anyone's applying for federal grants, please reach out to our offices because we can all sign letters for any federal grant. I know our office doesn't do state grant letters of support. I'm not sure what the other offices' policies are, but any federal grant, we're happy to write you guys letters of support and work with the delegation to make sure that's done. So I guess some of you are in different congressional districts. Some of you I think are in Rosa's and Congressman Larson's office, so we can work with them too.
Any other questions? Or comments?
Oh,
Yes.
things I forgot, I'm sorry. We are still quite ahead, but starting to think about, I think I've mentioned before, the surface transportation reauthorization and the water resources and development reauthorization. So if you have any specific points that you would like for us to advocate for being included in those, please let us know as they come up. We're trying to keep a growing list. I'll take anything you got. Just keep the list as we are getting new information from the committees of what they want from us. So we're an open door on it. Yes, for both of them. We'll give this a license.
Okay. Our state legislators have anything?
Yeah, I just have, in terms of what you just voted on your legislative agenda, there's two items on here that I'm already working on. Just to give you a quick update, so the regionalization for municipal police. I'm looking at that through the lens of the resident state trooper program. It has some issues. It's an old program. It's sort of not keeping date with current public safety needs and as well as needs of the town, fiscal needs and other needs. So I am looking at that. We had a bill out of public safety last year. It didn't go anywhere. It got out of committee, but it didn't get called to the floor. But I've spoken to the chair. We're gonna bring that bill back, revise it a little bit to allow towns to regionalize. They can either have an existing police department or they can have a resident state trooper program. I have talked to the commissioner of DESK. He hasn't been committing one way or the other, whether he likes it or not, but he does like the idea of freeing up his resident state troopers to go back to being troopers on the road. Because they're looking at a pretty serious retirement bubble coming up in the next 2 years. So anyway, I'm working on that. And any ideas from the towns or any concerns you have about regionalization or anything like that, please let me know, because we'll work that into the discussion and working up the bill. The other one that I'm working on is expediting the permitting process for invasives. So I've been working pretty closely with DEEP as well as the Office of Aquatic Invasive Species, which is out of the Agricultural Experiment Station. So right now, really simply, DEEP is the permitting regulatory enforcement function. They really don't do any scientific research anymore. Oasis does scientific research. One of the backlogs in that is Oasis is doing the research on these invasives. And then either municipalities, the state, or the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers will apply for a permit to then treat it. In their permitting process, DEEP has to then go out and hire and recreate the science to then issue the permit. So because we have two state agencies, we have Oasis and DEEP, both funded to tackle this problem. I'm looking at a way to streamline that so that Oasis would be the neutral, impartial, separate from enforcement regulatory, just doing science. They'll believe in science. And then, so then DEEP would have to rely on that. So it would take away that 1 to 2 years that it's causing DEEP to then go out and recreate the science. So that's one avenue. The other avenue is that Connecticut is the only New England state and one of the few states in the country that does not have an environmental rapid response protocol. So when we identify, Oasis identified an invasive, which they have, there's a third strain of hydrilla out there, there's other invasives out there. They have to get into the cycle of doing the science, waiting 2 years or a year for the permit, and then that gives 1 to 2 to 3 growing seasons for the plant or the insect. So all the other New England states are pressuring Connecticut because we're considered the gateway for invasives. And so what I want to do is, work with all of these agencies and get the necessary resources
Well,
to create a rapid response. And the rapid response does is once an invasive is identified, it allows for an initial shortening to then try to control it, while then the science and the other research catch up, and then you really know how to address that. But trying to prevent that spread, that's what happened with hydrilla. It was found and then didn't do anything for 2 years, and it just grew and spread and so right now, Connecticut's over 60% of our waterways across the state have invasive species in it. So I'm working on those 2 areas, so I'm glad they're on your list. Anything you have, send my way. Would love to work with you.
Thank you.
Chairman,
Yes,
I have a question. Regionalization, you're focused on regionalization, to focus just on police with that bill, or is it include EMS?
No, we're looking, I mean, we're coming at it for an issue with policing, particularly resident state troopers. But we are looking at allowing regionalization for all of public safety. So from 911 dispatching to medical, fire, police.
I'd love to talk to you after this meeting. I have some thoughts and questions and ideas about that. Invasive species. Is there any agency in this state that's focused on invasive species?
Well, right now, the Office of Aquatic Invasive Species is a focus on everything in the water and the watershed area. Other invasives, like other mammals in the woods and stuff, DEEP does that. But I don't think right now, I think the ones in the water just spread so much faster. That right now, that's sort of where everyone's focus is. But I could better answer your question.
Yes, because hydrilla is a huge problem. The more you cut it, the more it wants to grow, the faster it spreads. Has anybody thought of using the resources of the Connecticut experiment station?
That's where Oasis is.
Okay,
They're housed in.
good.
So they look at insects. I know the experiment station, they do look at insects. I just don't know if they look at beyond aquatic insects. I'm sure they do. I just have not had a specific conversation with them about that.
well, if either one of you want to know about it, you see
Also, Dr. Margot, our senior.
she'll tell you all about it.
Thank you.
She's been doing it for several years. Based on us paying the bill, by the way. And not the state, right?
Part of the bill.
Well, okay.
Yeah.
And regionalization, if you look up there for, law enforcement, there's a statute that you could, possibly, expand on for utilization of, officers in other jurisdictions. Okay. Moving on, do we have another rep?
I don't think so. Kevin, is there anyone else on line from any of our representatives? No. Okay, right, so.
Okay,
So we have the state GIS office, Alfredo.
okay, Kevin?
All right, Kevin, if you want to introduce.
We have guests, Alfredo Guerrera and Ashley Benita. Terrible. Thanks. Who are here to talk a little bit about the GIS work that they're doing at OPM, and what's coming down the pipeline in terms of data office. All right.
All right, so hi, I'm Alfredo Herrera. I'm the Geographic Information Officer, as I said before. I head up the GIS office within OPM. Our goal is really, we were established back in 2022. Well, technically 2021 is when the legislation passed. I started in 2023, right in the year. So we've only been around for years now almost. We've gotten a lot done in those 3 years, and so I want to give a kind of a brief overview of some of the things that we're doing, some of the things that are coming, to make sure that you guys are kind of aware, because some of them will involve your participation. As a quick summary, here's what we do. We do a lot of GIS data coordination, make sure that there's open data access. We do support other state agencies, and we do a lot of outreach and training, like what we're doing right now. We also coordinate orthoimagery and LiDAR data collection, so elevation and imagery of like the entire state. We provide standards and guidance, we do data processing, and we also handle collect and disseminate broadband maps. That's actually Ashley's job. Not to toot our own horn, but we have probably the best broadband maps. So, a big win. Yeah. So we have a strategic plan that we created 2 years ago now. Our vision and mission statements are here. Suffice to say that we just look to make sure that we're always innovating and that we're always kind of pushing forward and making sure that, you know, we make everybody's life easier, not harder. And we set out like 5 different goals. And everything that we do is looked at through the lens of one of those goals. If it's not in there, we just don't do it. Or it's on the back burner and we do it kind of when we can. So what did we do this year? First and foremost, we updated our strategic plan. This is a thing that we have to do statutorily every year. We have to make sure we do minor updates, revise the plan, make sure it's relevant and current. And then every 5th year, we have to do a full revamp and make sure that it, you know, we give it like a full hard look. So this last August, we approved, we updated the plan. We will be starting the process of updating the plan again here next year. We have a webinar series. Looks like all of these will have passed except for the one on the 11th, which is talking about our upcoming flight. So we back in 2022 into 23, we purchased 2 flights of imagery and elevation data. We are about to do the 2nd flight. And so we will have the vendor that's doing that work talking about that tomorrow and telling everyone kind of what's coming, what's and all of that. And we have more webinars that we're starting to plan for the upcoming year. And all of those, yes, thank you, Ashley. All of those webinars are recorded and the presentation slide decks that are available on Yukon Clear's website. So we do these in conjunction with them. Since they help us host all of that imagery and elevation data, they also help us with the outreach, which is great. We have what we're calling a Connecticut Housing Data Hub. Currently, that consists of a town level dashboard that kind of looks at some of the key metrics. This blends like private sector data, like I think it's from Realtor.com. We also take state agency data and kind of mix it and match it and look at that like Section 8 data. We also take a lot of census data and kind of present that in a really kind of neat way. It's all in this really kind of very deep dashboard, but we still think it's pretty easy to use. That being said, with the passing of the housing bill, we have a big role and a very large task on our hands to expand this hub. We are going to continue to call it the Housing Data Hub, but we are going to start drilling down to the site level, to the parcel level, looking at all of the different factors. And really what's going to be there is our charge in that statute is we have to provide you guys the tools in order to make the determinations where you have developable and redevelopable land. That means us finding all of the data that has comes into play with that. We've already started conversations with the planning folks and folks all in, various different stakeholders, at the municipal or regional level. That is partially why we are here today to talk to you guys. If you have any ideas, please talk to us. Because we are the ones that are gonna basically compile all of this data. The statute says we have to have this thing kind of ready by July first of next year. That is a very tall order. What we will have ready by July first of next year is a kind of a very, minimum viable product, I guess is what we're calling it. It's going to be kind of like, here's what enough to give you a really good preliminary look. And then by this time next year, we will have something that is much more complete and much more kind of robust in all of the various data sets that you will need to do that work. Especially since you guys have until like 2028 to kind of do those plans that you have to develop. That gives you a full year, if not longer, to kind of have the data to really parse it. And because the data is constantly changing, we will be continually updating that site and those data to make sure that that data is always as current as possible. As I mentioned before, we did 2 flights with all of the 2023 data that we purchased has been delivered in various states of being hosted. So imagery is all up, and we also got native imagery from 2023 and this year. So we have leaf on imagery. So if you guys want to see the trees, they're there. But the stuff that we bought is leaf off. So you can see through the trees, you can see everything. And in certain high density areas like urban cores, tall bridges, things like that, we actually bothered to make sure that there is no lean on any of the images. So like if you see a building, you see right down the side of it, all the way to the sidewalk, and you can see everything. That is one of the things that we felt was really important with the imagery. With the elevation data we have, once again, is basically the envy of all other 49 states. We have the highest density, best LiDAR data anywhere right now. I hear it a lot from my counterparts in the other states, how jealous they are. So we have 1 foot contours statewide. You can filter them by town and COG, so you can just look at just your area and look at that stuff. We have 2D building footprints, we have 3D building. We have a lot of data. We have impervious cover, so sidewalks, pavement, all of that stuff. We've gotten all of that stuff already delivered, and we're in the process of getting that up, kind of published and ready. We are part of the reason that we bought that in particular is because we want to work with NOAA to improve their land cover data set, the CCAP. So we are working with them to see if we can kind of get expedited processing, because we've purchased most of the data necessary to do it. We just need to get off the back burner, so we're working on. Like I said, there will be a webinar tomorrow. If you want to catch it live, if not, you can watch it recorded like the week after, talking more about that data. It's all available on our geodata portal, which is our open data website. It's also available through Yukon Clear as downloads and as a service. So anyone that, if you guys have GIS staff or you have technical staff that have the capacity to use that stuff, just let them know that it's there. It is all available. Here's a sample of the impervious cover that's in Norwich. Probably should have done something over here, but that's okay. I'll get to next time. So we did impervious cover. It is literally 12 different categories. So we're talking curbs, sidewalks, parking spots, the whole 9. It's everything. So we have all of the QA/QC. We're having the vendor do a few minor changes to make sure that it's right. And then, but we can give preliminary copies to anybody that needs it, should that need rise. Our contours are also up. These are 1 foot. They are incredible. You can see rock walls in the contours, which is like, if you've ever looked at contours, that's kind of mind blowing. Once again, we've done this as a visual aid, and we've also done it as an interactive layer. And for those that know that technical significance, I told the fact that we published this as a interactive layer to the president of the company that makes the software, and he gave me a look of like, what are you doing with my platform now? Did quite the double take. So it has 20 million plus lines in it. And it's responsive. If you pull it up, shows up instantly, it functions the way it meant. We've done a lot of work and our staff has worked really hard to make sure that this is as good as it can. The other thing, and this is kind of what I was alluding to earlier, we are working with 4 other states in the New England region to do a joint submission for a DCA, which is a joint funding project with USGS to map hydrography on all of the border kind of hydrologic units throughout the state. And then we decided to do the rest of the state for good measure internally on our own. The good news here is the internal project has been approved literally as of yesterday. So we got notice from USGS that we were approved. So we're going to be going ahead with that one. We're still waiting on approval of the multi-state project. And I can tell you, USGS is jumping up and down excited that we did this. We are the only ones to have done this. Basically, it was me and the guy from Rhode Island, you know, talking to all of our other counterparts, and we just talked to each other and we got it done. We submitted all the paperwork. And so, like I said, we will be doing this. This is hydrography for every stream in the state. The biggest difference here is the existing hydrography data that we have was drawn at a really coarse scale. So it's at 1 to 24,000 scale. And the way that this is going to be derived now is from a 2-foot per pixel elevation data set. So the order of magnitude of streams that we didn't even know existed is going to increase. So it's going to be insane. So this is really good. But the other thing that has a really interesting side effect is because we have the resiliency bill that passed recently, we also, the GIS office, got tasked with collecting every bridge and culvert in the states. You know, not nothing. So we were looking at this and, you know, and I've heard from some of you that are like, okay, how are we doing this? So we have a plan. So right off the bat, we talked to DOT and it's like, okay, guys, you guys need to tell us what a bridge is and what a culvert is very specifically so we know what to collect. Then we are going to set the schema. So like, what data are we trying to collect within that? What information is relevant? We want to make sure that it's aligned very closely with MS4 so that we're not kind of creating an additional burden to anyone as we collect this data because it is very relevant and related. Then we're going to be taking and asking everybody for whatever they have in whatever state they have it in, and we're going to do a first pass of what it looks like. And then we're going to give it to the 2 vendors doing the 3D AP work. The reason we're doing that is because part of the work that they do when they're discovering all of these flow lines of where the water flows across the landscape is they detect interruptions. So as they do that work, they find where the breaks are. So if we give them a list of our culverts and bridges and everything, they can say, hey, we're detecting an interruption here, but you don't have a bridge or a culvert there. Here you go. So we can take that list and then pass it on to all of you and say, hey, can you help us go find it? So instead of having to find literally everything, all we're going to be asking for is like, okay, let's find the stuff that we already know that we don't know is there already. And that's a much smaller ask than having to find literally everything. We're going to try and leverage as much existing data as we can and as many existing processes as there. So once we do kind of like that, filling in the gaps and then the validation and all of that stuff, we'll publish the data and then we can maintain that data set together going forward. We will provide the technical platform and all of those things to help you guys kind of maintain that so that it's not hard. That's our kind of overriding kind of focus on all of this. We want to make sure that this isn't a burden for as many people as possible because we hear you on the unfunded mandate stuff. We get it. We get it ourselves, like we didn't get any money to do any of this, so we're trying to do this as smartly as possible by leveraging as many things that people are already doing. The other thing that we're working on is a master address data set. This is a real challenge, especially in the public safety realm. When I first started, our address data set had maybe 900,000 addresses. When we were doing the broadband analyses, we were estimating that we should have about 1.8 million addresses. So we were short by about half. It's kind of crazy. So we immediately started collecting data sets from all around the state, all different agencies, from 911, broadband, parcel, census data, everything we could get our hands on. At this point, right now, we are at 1.6 million. And we are coming up, and the important thing is that we are coming up with a plan to maintain this data set. So this is another place that we acknowledge that the towns and the municipalities are the source of truth. So we are going to get to this place where it's a maintainable thing. The Secretary of State's office is already asking the registrars of voters to kind of validate those addresses. We are hoping to tie into that process so that we get all of the residential addresses kind of covered, and we have a mechanism for acknowledging. It's like, oh, hey, this one came online, we now know it's there, let's make sure it's in the master data set so that we can share it with everyone. The one that's gonna be, basically all that'll be left is commercial and industrial properties, and those can be complicated, but you know, when we don't have to look at the universe of everything, it's much more manageable a project. And then the other thing that we're doing with this is we are giving it to the National Address Data Set, and we are giving it to the Census Bureau so that we can make sure that Connecticut is not undercounted in the next census, because that happens a lot, especially in urban areas that are difficult to count because there's so much stuff there. If you don't even know it's there, you can't count. So we want to make sure that the GIS office gives us the best chance possible. So I know some of you have interacted with Luca, maybe you have, maybe you haven't. But it's hard and it's arduous. So we want to take that burden on and kind of do you guys the solid of taking care of all of those addresses as much as possible. So if you give it to us however you can, we can forward it on to the Census Bureau, and we can ensure that we have the best chance of not getting undercounted, which then has the knock-on effects of like funding and representation and all of those fun things. So like I said, we will be eventually reaching out to kind of understand your guys' processes for maintaining your addresses a little bit better. It's really just a series of questions of like, how do you do it? Who does it within your town? How, and like, what are some of the challenges you face? So that when we design our kind of data collection process, we are cognizant of all of that and we account for all of that. Parcel collection is also a thing that we do. OPM has done it since about 2019, 2020-ish. Starting in 2023, and to your point, we actually consolidated into a single parcel data set with 1.3 million parcels in it. We are now in our third year of it. And once again, it is the best, one of the best parcel data sets in the country. Full stop. Even the people that collect parcel data for a living, like there's a company called Regrid, they no longer really reach out to you guys, they just get it from us. And we are the only state that happens in.
And how did you deal with the municipal boundary mismatches?
We don't at the moment, but we do have a plan for that.
Okay.
So so when we look at the problem of parcels, really the biggest kind of value in the parcels is really the assessor's information that's in it. So our focus has been really high, and we'll talk about it here when I talk about the parcel grants. We've been really hyper focused on the match rates to make sure that the geometry that represents all of those values in the assessor's tables have a place to land, right? So once we do that, then we can start working on the geometry, and there is an accounting in those grants for geometry improvements, and that is important, don't get me wrong. But there is more value to be had in making sure that the link between the assessors and the parcels is 100%. Because that's, you know, like, those are the records, that's what people are looking for. So once we get to the point where we're kind of doing that, we also have been working on something that we're calling parcel drafting guidelines. And this is kind of like a best practices document that directs and kind of encourages practitioners to digitize things in a certain way. So that when you when you're digitizing these things, you have like any one scenario, you can ask like 5 people and get 7 different answers. So what we're trying to do is we're trying to narrow those down to like maybe 1 or 2 in a sequential order, like do this, if you can't do that, then do this. To kind of reduce those possibilities. And then that will organically improve the parcel geometry, which will then fix those boundaries.
Have you come up with a single way of representing condominiums? Or is that
We do have a recommendation, yes. We have two recommendations. I can talk to you more about it
Okay.
later. It's not kind of in the scope for this right now, but we do have, we've thought about it long and hard and talked to all of the experts.
And through the grants, we have been able to conversate with, the vendors that have been implementing these changes as we recommended.
Yeah, so as you see here, like, we have like tiered prioritization. Of how we'll want to approach this, you know, there's recency, so like, if you haven't updated your parcels in a while, like, do that first, right? So we're trying to kind of get like the biggest value, and we're trying to target those funds at those things that are like the easiest to solve. And then geometric quality is important, but it's also kind of like tertiary to all of these other problems that exist. When we're talking about it from like an end user perspective of what they're trying to get out of the parcel. So that is pretty much everything. If you have any questions, I'll be around.
Thank you. Any questions? Yes.
Cover, is that just for urban areas and separate?
Literally the entire 5,100 square miles of the state,
So, great.
plus a bit.
So, very.
Anyone else?
Yeah,
Yes.
so what I'm hearing back from the towns in my district is, because this. Their concern is, inciting housing. That, and somebody mentioned it up here, right, the need for our high capacity septics or high capacity wells. Where there's, large swaths of ledge that just might make it, fiscally unaffordable to build. Is this something, like, is that, like, you get that,
So from the previous cover, not so much, but there, we do have access to other data sets, like, so we've been talking to, DPH and Deep and.
You can
trying to-
eventually build all that in, at least
Exactly.
provide something where. But if somebody just says, oh, look at all this land, why isn't there housing on it? Well, there might be a reason why.
Yes.
And then are you layering in like, brownfields or things like that? And
Yep.
then is there a way to tell, like, if you're just looking at, again, large swath of land, well, that's a state park, or that's a
Yep.
open space, or like, so that's all.
We are trying to account for all of that, yes. So, yeah, it's a lot of data.
Yeah, well, like as a formula, right, you would think of all these different variables that's contained, and I think we would have to provide all the data that will calculate depending on what your considerations for the region would be, right? And for example, you didn't mention the slopes,
Yeah.
yeah, right.
Yeah, one of the data derivatives from the elevation is we went and said, okay, where are all the steep slopes in the state? Because those are harder to build on, if not impossible in some cases, right?
Like right over there.
Yeah, like right over there, exactly, like right here. Yeah, so we went and calculated every slope between 10 and 15%, 15 and 20%, and then 20% plus. That data set has like 200 million plus polygons right now. So, and that's
I don't know what that
statewide.
is.
I
Wow.
mean, it's a big number, like anything over 1 million is a lot, and it really tends to.
I don't know what polygon is.
Well, there's a lot. So, you know, anytime you start getting into that kind of territory of size of data, you really start breaking computers, so it really takes a lot of consideration and some careful planning and how we implement that.
So this is a powerful tool for like municipalities, the state, developers,
Absolutely.
funders.
That's exactly right.
So Alfredo, if you could, I don't know if you have any business cards or you could share your contact info.
Yes.
I'm sure there are CEOs and representatives,
I am very.
want to be able to use you.
Okay. Thank you very much. Very informative. Susie, Dennis,
Oh, I'm
Oh,
gonna
Dennis.
pass it off to Nicole
Cole.
Clardy, who's online, share an update about that.
Hi, good morning, everybody. Just a quick update from Demis. Earlier this week and the end of last week, we did have the season's first activation of the severe cold weather protocol. So thank you to all the towns and cities that updated their warming center and shelter information in WebEOC. If you haven't done so already, I do encourage a quick conversation among your stakeholders and your municipalities to ensure that your shelters and centers are prepared for the season. And then I also just want to note that this coming Friday, we have the Region 2 Annual Emergency Management Directors Meeting, which the target audience is really the municipal emergency management directors, but CEOs are more than welcome to attend as well. That will be this Friday from 10 a.m. to 12 p.m. at the Camden City Hall. That's all I have pending any questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Nicole. Any questions? Okay, thank you very much. We'll move on to COG business, election of RiverCOG officers, executive committee and members, 2026. Sam.
So I reached out to our existing officers who are Tony is chair, of course, David Cox is vice chair, Eric is secretary, and Carl is treasurer. I asked them if they'd be willing to serve another year, and they all said yes. I've also reached out to, we have 2 vacancies currently on our executive committee for at-large members, and I asked Michael Hilton and Cindy Lignar if they were willing to serve for 2026, and they said yes. So I do have a slate of officers for 2026 to present, Mr. Chairman.
Any nominations from the floor? Seeing no nominations from the floor, I'll take a motion. Motion, second. Second. It's a motion, a second to accept as proposed by the executive committee. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Congratulations.
Congratulations.
Again.
Thank you,
Um, FY 27 dues, Sam?
Yep, so I'm starting to get a notification letters from towns asking for our 2027 dues. We have not yet come up with those scenarios yet for the executive committee. Typically, we approve that in the January meeting. But if you need a placeholder right now, I can't expect anything more than 1 or 2% increase in dues over this year. But I will have a conversation with the executive committee. They'll make a recommendation to the full COG board for the January meeting, and that's when the dues will be adopted. So if you need a placeholder before then, I would just inflate it just by 1 or 2%, and we'll have the final number approved at the January meeting.
Any questions regarding that? Thank you. Janice, household hazardous waste vendor contract?
Yes, the contract we had with our hazardous waste vendor expired. We sent out an RFP and got 2 responses. We got MXI and Clean Harbors both responded. We asked them for per household numbers. Those really were very expensive, so we're looking at doing a container price, which we have done with MXI before. I gave the vendors the amount of waste that we collected this last year, and they came up with some numbers to figure out their new pricing. There's a difference of about $26,000 between MXI and Clean Harbors. MXI being the lower bid, and that's who the hazardous waste subcommittee has recommended to you to vote on.
I would move approval of a contract with MXI for hazardous waste collection and disposal services.
I'll second that.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion?
And if you will, maybe direct the executive director to enter, authorize the executive director to enter the agreement, or.
I thought it went without saying,
Oh,
but
okay. Well,
I'll make it as an addendum as necessary.
Yeah, okay.
And second?
I'll second the addendum.
Okay. We have that motion. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Janice. EPA Brownfield grants, Susie?
That'll be me. So following on what you've heard from our legislative constituents or our leaders here, the EPA grant was released from the federal government, and RiverCOG has been working with UConn TAB
throughout the fall to, prepare for a potential grant. I've talked to several of you about, sites that might be included in a grant. If you have any sites that you would like to include, there are, as, Eric mentioned, restrictions and criteria that need to be met. But if anyone has them, I'm happy to talk with you about it, and we can talk to you front to half about it. So we will be applying, we'd like to apply, we're gonna be asking for your, permission and a motion later. But the grant is due January 28th. We're working on it, we're preparing, and, what the goal will be with the grant funds is, number one, to develop a brownfield program for the region, so that we can, number one, identify and inventory all the properties. And that'll include getting information from you, but maybe hopefully hiring someone who can help us with that, and using UConn Tab to help us with that. And then not just inventory, but then prioritizing how we attack and determine how we're going to address those issues across the region. And then, the second piece of the grant will be to actually perform brownfield assessments on 2 to 6 properties, depending on how many, are received that fit the criteria. So what I'm asking today is for a motion to not only to apply for this grant on January 28th, but also to write a letter requesting that Connecticut Deep support our application.
Do I have a motion?
I'll make that motion.
Motion second? Second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you.
Margaret, National Hazardous Mitigation Plan, please.
Good morning, everyone. Just an update on the Natural Hazard Mitigation Plan. January is going to be an important month for all of us. We would like to have our municipal town meetings, scheduled the week of the 12th and the week of the 19th. Elias is going to be sending out an email concerning it. We're doing it through an app called Bookings. It was the same way that we did it at the last meeting, which was the first time we've used that approach, and it worked very well. So we're going to do that again. So please keep an eye out for that. And those will be 2-hour meetings. They're the most important meetings of the Natural Hazard Mitigation Plan for your municipalities. And you really need to have the staff that you think are very important to be there. We're going to be making sure that that your annexes are the way that you would like them to be, that your projects that you'd like to include in the plan are all there, and that the new ones that you want to add that you've had a chance to think about are there. So it's very important for your emergency management people, your public works, your planners, and whoever else that you think is important from your town to be there. There were a few thin meetings at the first town meeting, so we really wanted to make sure that we had a robust crew there at each meeting. Then I just spoke with Tony and about having the regional GIS committee, which includes all of you as your municipal representative at the January COG meeting, which is, I think you have to approve the dates for next year, but if it follows suit, it would be one on January 28th. And that would also be a 2-hour meeting. So I'm hoping that works out and that we can do that. I think it would be maybe a shortened COG meeting, Sam, and have the 2-hour meeting afterwards. And that also is the most important for the regional committee to be at. So those are the updates for the national mitigation. I think that there'll be any issues with having those meetings, the town meetings during those 2 weeks. And if there are, please let me know and we'll work around.
Okay, so the next meeting in January, we may have it a little bit longer. And we're gonna look at possibly providing lunch, and we'll be doing it at the COG. Yet yet to be determined, but that's possibly, what we're thinking of doing.
And we could do it hybrid, and if people come in, maybe we'll feed them. If they don't, they can watch us eat.
Well, it's always an incentive for people to come if we provide food. Okay, do you wanna go right into the land trust?
So, for all of you, we have, the Land Trust has been working on a conservation planning tool that we will be, showcasing at our annual meeting. And that will be on December 18th. The business meeting starts at 10, and then we'll have the presentation with the National Park Service at 10:30. And so that's very exciting for me to have that come to fruition. And after hearing about all the wonderful GIS data, understanding where our natural resources exist in our region, being able to use all of that to weigh in on is a really exciting thing. So, so please come and hear about that tool. I think we're going to also do a presentation meeting. Well, maybe not 10 work now, but or something. So we'll work that all out. But the board and the committee that we had of all natural resource professionals that work in our region and land trust members worked really hard on it. So great tool. So it's maybe.
And so go ahead with, deep, resiliency grant.
So we did have a meeting that you guys requested on the 3rd, December 3rd. And mostly it was staff from our from the COG, and John all came to it. Chris Fields is the gentleman from Deep that is the head of that program. And so they're definitely willing to work regionally on things. I think they're really interested in stormwater utilities, energy projects, but also any other thing that he would like to bring forward, would work on it with us individually. So, as far as the towns attending, that was only job. So you have to, I guess, talk amongst yourselves for next year, or with us. And he did sound really confident about funding for next year. So we'll see what comes up, but it would be for next year's grant if there is one. But if you want to work regionally, we need to start talking about it now.
Thank you, Margot. Any questions, Margot, for the 3 items that she ran over? Great, thank you. We need to add an item, economic development or a developer.
Development, yeah.
Development, economic development.
Move that we add economic development to the agenda.
Can I-
as
can
item
I-
5H.
Can I get a second, please?
Second.
Any discussion? Without objection, all in favor?
Aye.
Go ahead.
All right, so this is about the on-call economic development, which this board approved us going out for RFP. We did go out with an RFP. We received 9 proposals. And the proposals were to provide on-call economic development to our towns in any sort of economic development type of need you might have to assist your towns. So we had 9 proposals. We reduced that to 4 finalists. 3 of us went through those 4 finalists and identified community resource management. We unanimously identified them as our top choice. They have extensive experience in all aspects of economic development in South Central Connecticut and have worked with many of our towns and also with South Central RiverCOG. And they have experience with brownfield land banking, remediation and redevelopment, which is something I think we would be looking forward to going forward. The cost is $150 an hour, which was a bargain relative to other proposals that we had, with an estimated annual budget of $25,000 to $35,000 or to $30,000. And what I'm looking for is an emotion to approve the selection of community resource management to serve as RiverCOG's on-call economic development services provider.
Do I have a motion?
I'll make that motion.
Motion second?
Second.
Second. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Susie. Yes. Okay, going into, MPO business, approval of minutes of November 19th. Can I get a motion? Carl, who was it, Mike? Carl, second?
Second.
Second. Any discussion, any corrections? Okay, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Rob, SS4A action plan update?
Yeah, just a quick update on a few things. Yes, this for a plan, let's see, our comprehensive, safety action plan. Public comment period ended last Friday, so currently, we are working with, HI, the consultant, to incorporate those comments into the plan. They are available to come out to the board meeting next month to, present the, final draft, or, hopefully for that. Any questions?
Any questions for Rob? Okay, Rob, 27 through 30 tip, update?
Yeah, this is mostly just a scheduling update. As we mentioned in the past, we are updating the tip. The current tip is 25 through 28 with an FYI year. The new tip is 27 to 30 with an FYI. This makes it much easier for MPO board review, as the first 3 years of the current tip carry over into the new tip. So the only things you probably may not have seen would be FY 30 and then the new FY category in the new tip. DOT hopes to have the air quality conformity determination completed in early March. Once that is complete, we can get the draft document cleaned up and up for public comment. So we could probably bring that to the MPO board in April or May, which would give USDOT enough time to approve the statewide tip, which is a compilation of all the MPO tips by July 1st.
Any, questions for Rob on the tip updates? Anything else, Rob, transportation?
Just under other, I think there was.
Yeah, go ahead.
An item or two. Yeah, as mentioned earlier, I did send out the build grant info. Build is better utilizing investments to leverage development. It's a discretionary grant, as mentioned. It used to be raised, used to be Tiger. This actually did have a list of eligible applicants, eligible projects, money, availability, and a list of the build grant website. I just did want to get that out, as the deadline is fairly short. I believe it was February 24th, so there isn't really a lot of time to get those applications together. I just want to make everyone aware of that. One other item regarding the certification review corrective actions. Yesterday, I was notified that our second corrective action I had sent in was deemed satisfactory by USDOT. The second action was basically to revise the system performance plan and the MPP. What that is basically, as you're somewhat familiar, you do the safety performance measures, you have to take schedules annually. There's other performance measures as well, and this is just an update of that section of the plan. I will send that out for our next board meeting with a resolution to put that addendum into the MPP as an appendix. Next step is, since it is a deep transportation management based certification, once we have the other reviews from SCROG approved by USDOT, they will issue the final certification letter for the Haven region, and then we can be set with that.
Any questions for Rob? Thanks, Rob.
Sure.
Chairman, Executive, Transit District, Brendan?
Good, absolutely.
a couple quick updates with folks running in the district. So the first of which you might be aware of is our bus stop project. I've been bugging everybody about the bus stops. I've seen email from me K5. So I appreciate everybody getting a feedback from those towns already, and we're currently in the process of working with them to go over the proposed bus stop locations both on town and on state roads. So we're working with towns for town road approval. Then we'll be working with the state for permitting for the state routes. We also are though open to any feedback on all of the routes, right? So even if it's a state route, bus stop on a state route, we're only happy to take feedback on that to make sure the town is, open to it. So we'll definitely we'll be going over that. Heard back from a lot of towns. I've been to a lot of board of selectmen meetings. I was just in Chester last night. Cindy, which was great. So happy to do it. I know every town's kind of different in how they have been treated to approve or review these stops. For the board of selectmen, for the police, public works. So whatever works best for the town, those stops we're happy to work with. And again, we are open to moving things around and look at different bus stops depending on what the town would like. So we're definitely open to those issues. Also regarding our other permitting there, we're also reaching out to the state for District 2 and 3, which is the majority of our RiverCOG region, pretty much down anything south of Middletown, Portland. So Middletown, so we're basically working with them for state approval, those stops as well. So we're well underway there. So we also want to talk about our extra mile program, which is doing very well. We expanded from 1 zone to 4 zones back in May 2024. Since we've launched with over 50,000 rides, great. So we've definitely been a very popular pilot program. However, of course, there is some concern that there may not be funding next year to continue the pilot. That would end on this come up in June, as like the time they could end. There's some where there might be funding out there, but nothing concrete yet. So we're definitely still advocating to make sure that we have. And I believe it was in the legislative agenda, which is excellent that we do have concrete funding for that, because it would be a shame to lose these pilots because they're doing quite well. So we definitely want to keep those going across the state, but especially in our region, of course.
Brendan, say again, how many rides?
How many rides? 50,000.
50, 50?
50. Yeah, 50,000. Yep. 50. Yep. 50,000 rides. And I'll just say that our Middletown one in particular is extremely efficient. We do between 10 to 11 rides an hour. It's been honestly one of our software providers who provide software services for microtransit across the world via. They were really impressed. They were like, these are like downtown Manhattan level ridership numbers. So that route is very efficient, and a lot of our other routes are also very well.
Do you have previous data on what it was?
Previous data for
On right?
well, so yeah, so that data is still going on today. So that I write still today for that route. Before.
Yeah, do you have something to compare it to?
Yeah, so I mean, each source is different, so they're each kind of very unique, right? So the Middletown zone is small, and has more population, whereas like our old Sabre zone is it's more kind of more rural, suburban. So and some of them.
Yeah, what I'm saying is, you say you had 50,000.
Yes.
What did you previously have?
So nothing. So before this,
Oh,
right?
you didn't have that.
From scratch, right? This
Okay.
has come from just an idea to service on the road, and a little about a year and a half is what we've seen so far. Yeah.
That's still impressive, thank you.
And October was our biggest month. Yes.
Yeah, over 7,000 trips in October.
Yeah.
Great.
November, even with the holidays, is 6,800.
Yeah.
Usually you start to see dips because we're closed on holiday, people event. So we have big numbers.
Yeah, it's still growing with a year and a half pilot, and it's already stayed pretty good ridership in most of the zones, which is great. So all the reason why we really like to continue, because even cutting that program for a year could basically kill it, because then you lose all that ridership rate. If you pause it, and all people think it's gone forever, it's never coming back, and then you gotta so it really is a pretty important that we try to keep it going if possible. It'd be a shame if it ended this early. So we're definitely advocating for that legislatively, make sure that continues. And then we also have our fixed. We want to talk about our fixed route ration as well, right? Sort of our bread and butter, so our primary 13 bus routes. We've been seeing great ration there too. We're actually now above pre-pandemic levels, which is actually pretty unique. Right now across nationwide, right now ration is about 86% of what it was back in 2019, so pre-COVID. Obviously, there was a big change when COVID came. So most transit districts across the country are now actually
a little below where they were back in 2019. We're actually well above it. Pre-COVID in 2019 for fiscal year 19, we had about 255,000 fixed route riders, and the demand response was about 20,000. And then year 25, we had 332,000 for fixed route and 68,000 for demand response. The big jump in demand response is largely from the extra mile expansion, but still, even the fixed route is also growing. So that's good to see. And why we bring this up as well, wanted to highlight the good progress. But there is also potential. We've heard Joe there could be potential cuts coming for fixed route service, which we hope not to be realized. And I think it's still early days. We don't know if they're coming, but there has been inquiries into potential cuts. So we're hopeful that that will not manifest. I don't think there's anything else Joe you want to add about those potential cuts in here.
So, yeah, I think it's relevant throughout the state budget, so it's not due to any projected decrease in funding availability from the state specific transportation or any federal custom transportation. However, they are looking at a possible scenario of reducing the bus and rail fine budget by $30 million. Probably about 50-50, so rail would take about $50 million hit too. And it's because of OPM's concern that because they're having backfill federal programs that have been cut, they're going to hit the budget cap. And so it's not so much that there's not enough revenue being in the state, it's that the budget cap is looking like it's going to be the issue preventing them from being funding it. As they have to fund full of other revenue and hearing happening because pushes up against that cap and over it. And so that's what they're looking at right now. Again, it's very early. It's not unusual for OPM to ask for budget reduction scenarios that many times. But we all know the budget cap is going to be an issue. So I think it's definitely pay close attention to, and we've already been providing some scenarios.
I just point out. Thank you. Any questions?
Just point out the backwardsness of HB 8002 pushing so much of a focus on transit-oriented development, and then OPM going around and saying, well, we might have to cut the very services that we're pushing for more housing to be built around. That seems, well, par for the course for the state in some ways, but just kind of myopic.
Yeah. I wish I could say that I haven't seen it before. What do you think, Carl?
I have a question.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
My name is Todd Gelston from East Haddam.
Yes.
Your numbers are interesting. What's your contact information?
Sure, I do have a card. I can give you a card.
Okay, thank you.
So, I can't agree with you more, Eric. I don't know what to do about it, though. Do you have a suggestion?
Point out to OPM that transit-oriented development brings more revenue in. And I also point out that if there were 15 million for rail, we should be really concerned too, because we know which rail you should target.
They're gonna cut our road.
It's not much more.
They are.
Well, that's what Joe's saying, is that if they're trying to cut costs, they're gonna cut Shoreline East over.
That's fair.
So is,
Maybe an increase in order lines.
so this is OPM doing this?
This is, oh, well, I'm just asking for what. And honestly, they don't usually ask for that level of detail. They just usually ask for that. Compare different budget scenarios, but they don't actually ask for it.
Really?
It sounds to me kind of like they're getting ready to make a case to maybe increase the cap or do something like that. Because again, it's not there's not the revenue coming in. It's a budget, strictly budget cap issue is what could be.
Okay, as we get closer, and if they do, if it does look like, there's gonna be cuts either in rail or buses, then, we'll discuss it further and possibly authorize a letter, opposing any cuts.
So you might want to reach out to us if you find out figure out a proposal there, because rail is having a good proposal. I don't see it, but I know it's being done.
So, and when is your legislative meeting?
It's in January, late January.
Okay.
But they had to, so they need to go, yeah, yesterday.
Okay,
So.
do we, all right,
Rail might already have.
all right, I'll reach out to Rail.
Okay,
Okay, thank you.
anything else? Any further questions?
I just have one.
Yes,
The extra mile
Yes.
service, what is the funding source for that again? Remind me?
So that's from the state, so that's state
Okay.
funding,
Okay.
yeah, that's state funding,
All right,
really speaking.
okay, thank you.
Yeah, and just note, Julia sits on the state, public transportation. committee.
Yes, I'm also the Shoreline East representative, so every time I hear it, like, oh,
Yeah.
we just got $5 million back.
Yeah.
But yeah, we are certainly discussing that is a significant concern.
Thank you, Julia. Right.
Chairman, Executive Director, I have nothing other than to wish everyone a Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, whatever you may observe to you and your families. Sam?
Thank you. All right, I have the financial report. As of November 30th, the council had completed 5 months, 42% of fiscal year 2026. And overall spending is within the parameters of the adopted $3.1 million budget. The cost of we just replaced our copier, came in relatively low. We had budgeted 15 grand in our equipment line item, with expecting maybe about 12 to go towards the copier. But we came up with since we're making far fewer copies than we used to, we were able to, we think we're able to get by with a much cheaper machine that only cost us 3 grand. This is good because it looks like I'm gonna need to replace some computers, including my laptop, because no one seems to be able to hear me when I'm on my laptop.
No, I can hear you. It just sounds like you're in a.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think Eliza said I was scary sounding.
Yeah. If you saw my reaction yesterday, I was trying to get as far away from the monitor as possible.
So, yeah, so the savings from the copier, I'm gonna be buying some new computers. I'm just waiting for them to go on sale. And, well, I think this is important, yeah.
You might
And
want
then-
to jump on it quickly because Corsair just got out of the RAM market, so
Oh.
order of the market just dropped for computer parts.
Okay, and then also, under big expenses, the audit invoicing to date is 14,200. As of, November 30th, our account balances were $393,121.34 in our Liberty Bank account. And $1,678,441.53 in our STIF account. Sally and I met with Liberty Bank last week. They are changing the fee structure for their business accounts or government municipal business account. And we are looking, just shopping around with, I think we reached out to Chelsea Groden Bank just to see what a competitor might offer us. Before going back to Liberty and seeing if we can negotiate with them. So, I don't know, anything else you want to add to that about shopping for a bank?
I think that we're probably gonna end up with fees that we've not had before.
Yeah,
Really?
yeah, like they're charging for ACH and that they hadn't charged before. They're looking to raise charges, but to offset that, they're offering us money market flexible accounts that will earn interest, that will hopefully offset the fees, except if the money market rates go up. So, anyway, so we are shopping around to see what options there are for our bank accounts.
Any questions for Sam? Does anyone have anything good, for the good of the council?
Just one note. So, if you're driving down 148 next week, don't. They are gonna be doing some emergency dam repair to Lucas Pond, so that'll be one way, or one lane traffic, for a day or two. I don't know which day or two yet, so, just be careful.
Yeah, Grayson Wright from Connecticut, you sent that notice to me as
Yeah.
well. I don't know if Grayson, if you know anything more about that, dam, emergency dam replacement, but, yeah.
Okay. Who's there?
Yeah, I don't know if you,
But I don't-
I don't know,
Grayson, are you with us?
Yes, I am. What other than what was sent to the town and the COG, I'm not I don't have any other information beyond what was sent. If you have any question, I can reach out to the project manager, determine who the project manager is, and get some more information for you if
He's
needed.
been pretty good about getting this information. Sorry, I found out about it on Thursday. It's been pretty quick turnaround. I think they're just waiting on permits from deep, so.
And for the new CEOs who have joined us at RiverCOG, Grayson White is our liaison with DOT. So if you have any questions regarding anything, he is a good point of contact, and we will, I'll have Vicky send out an introduction email to all of you with Grayson's contact info. Yeah.
Anyone else have anything? Okay, in that case, I'll take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Motion, second. Any further discussion? I don't think so. All in favor? Aye. Everybody have a great day. Stay safe. Have a great holiday.
Holidays.